You know, for centuries, we've tried to understand what makes us happy. But what if we could actually measure it at scale? Today, we're going to dive into how AI is learning to read our feelings, turning happiness from this abstract idea into strategic, actionable data that businesses and even governments can use.
Okay, let's just jump right in with a big question. For the longest time, we've kind of just assumed that economic growth, more money, higher GDP, well, that it automatically leads to a better life. But is that really true? Turns out the research shows that once you hit a certain point, that link between wealth and well-being, it starts to fall apart. And that realization, it sparked a whole new field, the economics of happiness. It's this major shift away from just looking at financial numbers to trying to figure out what truly makes people's lives better.
Right. So the really crucial point here is that traditional metrics like GDP just miss a huge part of the picture. I mean, they don't capture things like your personal freedom, your social connections, or having a sense of purpose. The economics of happiness is trying to fix that by putting our subjective well-being right at the heart of the conversation. And what's wild is that we are sitting on a gold mine of information about how people feel. It's hiding in plain sight, really, in the millions of words people write every day. Think about it. Open-ended survey answers, online reviews, social media posts. The big challenge has always been, how do we possibly make sense of all of that? Well, let's look at the old way versus the new way. I mean, trying to manually read and code thousands of text responses is just incredibly slow and expensive. And even worse, it's totally subjective. You could have two different people read the exact same comment and interpret it in completely different ways. And this is where AI, specifically natural language processing, or NLP, completely changes the game. It gives us a fast, consistent, and objective way to do this. So how does this technology actually work, right? How can a machine learn to understand human emotion just by reading text? Well, it really comes down to two key techniques. All right, so the first tool in our toolbox is something called sentiment analysis. The easiest way to think about it is like a mood detector for text. It scans a sentence or a whole paragraph and figures out its emotional tone. So in its simplest form, it answers that fundamental question. Are people feeling positive, negative, or just neutral about this topic? But, knowing if people are happy, that's really only half the story. The second tool, topic modeling, is more like a theme finder. It automatically sifts through these huge amounts of text to figure out what people are actually talking about. This answers the crucial follow-up question: why are they happy or unhappy? And this is where the real magic happens, when you put these two techniques together. Suddenly, you don't just know the overall happiness score. You can see that people are feeling really positive about, say, work-life balance, but they're feeling really negative about their commute times. This gives leaders incredibly specific insights they can actually act on. And believe me, this isn't science fiction. The technology is here and it's incredibly accurate. For example, a model called Hebert, which was trained specifically for the Hebrew language, can identify sentiment with a stunning 97% accuracy. I mean, that level of reliability is what makes it possible to build a happiness index that you can actually trust. Okay, so the tech is powerful, we get it. But how do you actually put a project like this into action without it becoming some massive, expensive nightmare? It all comes down to a smart, phased strategy. You've basically got three paths you can go down. You can buy an off-the-shelf tool that's fast, but you don't get much customization. You could build a custom model from the ground up, which gives you total control, but man, is it slow and expensive. Or there's the middle ground. Assemble a solution using pre-existing APIs from companies like Google or OpenAI. So for a pilot project, the assemble approach is honestly the clear winner. It's the perfect sweet spot. You get to tap into these powerful, world-class models without that massive upfront investment in time and money. It lets you prove the concept and show value quickly, which is absolutely critical for getting any new initiative off the ground. And this maps out a really clear path forward. You kick things off with a small, focused 3-month pilot just to prove it works. Once you've shown the value, you move on to implementation, maybe building an automated dashboard so you get real-time insights. And from there, the sky's the limit. You can expand to include more data sources, even different languages. It's a smart, scalable, low-risk way to do it. Now, it's super important to say that with a tool this powerful, you have to be careful. You have to think through the potential downsides and how to handle them before you even write a single line of code. Look, it's a cliche for a reason. When you have the ability to measure public sentiment with this kind of precision,
It is absolutely critical to build in safeguards from day one to make sure that power is used the right way.
So let's talk about the big three risks. First up, data privacy. This one's a no-brainer. People have to trust that their information is safe, so anonymizing data is completely non-negotiable. Then you've got the risk of bias. If your original data has social stereotypes baked into it, guess what? The AI will learn them, so you have to constantly audit for that. And finally, you have to fight the urge to oversimplify. A single happiness score can easily be misused, so it's all about being transparent that this is a tool for insight, not a final judgment.
But when you manage it responsibly, this technology stops being just some interesting experiment. It becomes a genuine strategic asset for any organization or government that really wants to succeed in the 21st century. And we really need to think about its value in two different ways. First, there's the traditional ROI, or return on investment. The direct financial savings you can measure. But then there's also VOI, or value on investment, which is all about the broader, more strategic benefits. On the ROI side, the numbers are pretty stark. Automating this kind of analysis can slash the time it takes by up to 70%. And think about what that means. It frees up your smartest people to stop crunching data and to start thinking about what it all means and what to do about it. That alone is a massive win. But the VOI, that's where things get really transformative. For a business, this means understanding your employee sentiment so you can boost productivity and keep your best people from walking out the door. For a government, it's an incredibly powerful civic listening tool to help create better, more responsive policies. And for society as a whole, it means we can finally make well-being a tangible goal that we can actually measure and manage. And look, this isn't just some theoretical idea. This framework takes the pioneering academic work of Dr. Shet Saban on what he calls corporate happiness responsibility and turns it into a practical, powerful tool that leaders can use right now to make better decisions. So we end up right back where we started, but with a whole new perspective. The question isn't if we can measure happiness anymore. The question is, now that we can, what do we choose to do with that knowledge? How are we going to use this incredible power to build better companies, better governments, and a genuinely happier society?